Hello friends and welcome. I am Samantha of Krebs Bookkeeper Crafts, and if you're new here, I show you how I make things. Subscribe for more. Today I am showing you how to assemble the second clue in the Cotton Cuts Fall Puzzle Mystery Quilt Olympia. This is the second video in the Olympia series, so if you missed the first, check out the playlist in the description down below. If you're not familiar with Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilts, it's a 10-month-long monthly subscription box of pre-cut fabrics for making a mystery quilt. Each month's box contains all of the fabrics you need cut to the shapes you need to assemble that month's clue. And this is the fabric for the second month. So let's go ahead and open this up. And one other thing we need is our key that came with our first box. Let's see if I can get my fabrics right this time. So these are our bits that come with clue number 2. So we can go ahead and set that off to the side. We have a few triangles, a few large triangles. It looks like there's two sizes of triangles. So we have a few large triangles of fabric B and a few large triangles of fabric H. And then we have small triangles of each of those. So our first instructions for putting these pieces together is it looks like we are going to take 6 of each of the large triangles. So we've got 6 of fabric H. We're going to set these aside for later. We're going to set those aside. And then we have 6 of fabric fabric B set aside. All right, so we've got 2 sets with 6 in each. So for the first step, we're actually going to sew it together with our fabric H up here on the upper left-hand side and our fabric B down here on the lower right. So if you remember when we sewed together our previous clue, our pieces had these little notches on the corners. So just like before, we're going to take, so these are going to lay out together like this. So we're going to take and fold over this edge and line up our notched corners like we did last time. So we're going to line up here and here. We're going to go ahead. My machine allows me to shift the needle over to the side to set my seam allowance. As long as you sew with the same seam allowance that you sewed with last time, you will be just fine. So line your pieces up and go ahead and sew them together. Now just like before, we see our seam allowance is hitting this point here and hitting this point here. And we can go ahead and turn it over for a better look. We're hitting our tips. So what that means, just like last time, is when we go ahead and we open this up, there are no dog ears that are going to need any trimming. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the rest of these together, and then we'll go press. So our pressing instructions have told us that we want to be pressing to the B fabric. The B fabric for my project is this fabric up here. So I will be pressing to the light blue. Now once again, like before, a nice smooth pressing technique to get good clean pressing lines is to fold it back, do a little finger press, take your iron with the extra long cord and smooth it over. There we go. We have a press piece. So now we have 6 of these fabric HB units. These are going to be sewn together into 2 strips with 3 units each. The units go together in a little serpentine zigzag fashion, like so. So we're going to go and do that with both sets of 3. We're just going to sew these seams here. So just like before, we have a notched corner here, and that's going to line up with our straight edge on our corner there, and we have a little notched corner on the H piece over here, and that's going to line up right there, and we're just going to sew from corner to corner. So once again, our instructions are telling us that we are going to go ahead and press towards the B piece here. We do have a little bit of seam buildup up here on this tip over here, But if you just finger press that out, just very gently, should be okay. There we go. All of our seams are pressed to our B pieces. So our next instructions for finishing off these 2A strips is to use our little tiny triangles here. We're going to take one of each of these and we're going to put them on the corners over here. And then we are going to take our H fabric. So these were our B fabrics. We're going to take our H fabric and we're going to go ahead and put one on each of the strips up over here. We're going to go ahead and sew that all together. So pressing these, it's a little bit different than before. So before, when we were pressing, we were always pressing to the B piece. However, for our little triangles, we are going to press away from the little triangle. So for the H piece, that means yes, we are pressing to the B piece. But for our other side, that means we're actually going to press to the H piece. So we're going to make sure that we are pressing away from our small triangles. This is our 2A pieces assembled. And just because I think everything was out of frame when I pressed it last, which I seriously apologize for, this is what your pressing should look like on the back, where you have your B pieces here on the bottom, and most of your seams are pressed to the B pieces with the exception of the small triangle here on the end, which is actually pressed to the H piece. So we're going to go ahead and label these two pieces as our 2A pieces and set them aside for later. Now, for our 2B piece, it's going to be very, very, very similar. However, it is going to be the opposite. So where before we were sewing pieces together like this, we are now sewing pieces together like this. So we're making a little reverse serpentine. All of our strips are going to be laid out like this. We're going to sew all of our triangles together like this into BH units, and then we're going to sew our BH units together. And we'll take our little guys here on each corner. And so it will be the mirror of the previous piece. So just like before, we are going to go ahead and we are going to press to the B fabric. So in my case, that's blue. In your case, that's whatever it says on your key. So once again, finger press. And just to emphasize the assembly direction, so notice how we have the H fabric in the upper right-hand corner and the B fabric in the lower left-hand corner. This is the opposite of the assembly for our 2A piece. So if I compare, this was our 2A component, this is our 2B component. So now that we've got everything pressed, just like before, we are going to take 3 of each of these fabric units and arrange them into a strip, like so. So we have 2 strips of 3 units. We're going to go ahead and sew these seams and these seams. So once again, we are going to go ahead and press towards our B piece. So we have all of our seams currently pressed to our B piece. And now we are on the final step. So just like before, we're going to take these little guys, the smaller triangles, the B fabric smaller triangles are going to go in the bottom right hand corner, and the H fabric smaller triangles, whoops, that's backwards. The H fabric smaller triangles are going to go in the upper left hand corner. Just like on the previous 2A piece, we are going to press away from our small triangles. So our seam should go away from the small fabric B triangle towards the fabric H triangle. And then on the other side, the fabric should go away from our small fabric H triangle towards the large fabric B triangle. So let's go ahead, stack those up and label them with our 2B label. So there we have our 2B strips, and here we have our 2A strips, just for reference, so that we can see the comparison of where our small triangles land. That is it. Those are the assembly instructions for month 2 of the fall 2021 puzzle mystery quilt Olympia from Cotton Cuts. If you want any more information about the Cotton Cuts puzzle mystery quilt, there is a link in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to do the YouTube things, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next month for clue number 3. Catch you later.